Test, test, hello? Hey. Hey, test. Yo. Alright, I'm putting my mask on. Oh, this is hard. I'm trying to tie a bow on the back of my neck. I got it. Okay. I will talk through a mask until it gets too annoying and I want to drink my tea. Let's see, what are we doing? Okay, this thing I was going to answer real quick about coronavirus memes. Because I saw one earlier. Here he goes, under this trend. Okay, there's a bunch of memes if you just skim the trend. There's a particular one I noticed. There's so many. Okay, it's the Batman one. You don't need source equal trend class. Is there space in front of it? Q equals %23? Work like this? Yeah. Hello. What's the bot? Okay. The mask makes my breath hit my glasses. It's not that bad. It fogs them a little bit. I'm US West Coast. I am staying home alone right now. I got a bunch of food. I have no intention of going out during the next few weeks at all. I think people should be taking it seriously in every country. The countries that don't have very many known cases, it's because they don't have a lot of testing. Like Africa doesn't have any cases, but they don't have many tests either. So, and there's certainly like air travel to Africa. It probably got spread there. Spain is shooting up, but it's kind of just the whole world is in danger now. I don't need to be wearing a mask. I'm just doing it for the stream and like to try it out. Oh, wait, if I switch channels and switch back, it stops saying new. Okay, so some general thoughts on coronavirus. It's a big deal. If you don't do anything about it, it spreads exponentially very quickly. And it will infect maybe 70% of the whole world. And if that happens, a lot of people die. And people are confused about the case fatality rate. So, plausibly, it only kills like 1% of people who get infected. And it could be lower than that. It could be half that. It might be even a bit lower. That doesn't mean it's not a big deal, though, because is the rate that people have to be hospitalized is more like 5%. Maybe a little less, but the rate of hospitalizations is significantly higher than the death rate. But if the hospitals get full, then the hospitalization rate becomes the death rate because they don't have any more hospital space. Everyone who needs a hospital and doesn't get one is probably going to die. So if you let it overwhelm the medical system, the death rate goes way up, like from 1% to 5%. And on top of that, when you overwhelm the medical system, people die of other stuff because they can't get medical care because the hospitals are full. So the death rate for non-coronavirus things goes way up when the hospitals are full. You get doctors sick disproportionately, and you overwork them and stress them, and it'll have a lasting effect on the medical profession. Like, they'll go through hell. So not doing anything is really, really bad. And half measures are really bad because they don't do enough to prevent the hospitals from getting overloaded by a lot. People bicker about the case fatality rate and, all these details, like what is the percent chance that a young person with no uh, comorbidities, meaning other weaknesses, frailties, illnesses, etc., that make them more likely to be a victim, like what's the chance that person dies? And it's pretty low, but the exact number is not important. What we don't know all the numbers, but what we do know is when this thing goes on a rampage, the hospitals get overwhelmed. We've seen that in Italy. It is clearly capable of overwhelming our medical system. So whatever the exact fatality rate is, it's something bad when you take into account the medical system being overwhelmed. We know it can do that, and we know that's really bad, so the exact numbers don't matter. I mean, they do matter, but they don't change the overall analysis. Yeah, I haven't left my home for 10 days. And only a couple times this month at all. I went to the gym twice early in the month, and I went to the grocery store on the 13th, and that's it. So half measures are bad because people get fed up with the social distancing and the restrictions, but they aren't good enough to solve the problem, which is the medical system being overwhelmed with too many patients, which raises the fatality rate dramatically. Like, the percentage of people that die when the medical system is not overwhelmed versus overwhelmed is a difference of like 5 times, possibly more. Could be 10 times. So the policy goal should be, how do we make the medical system not get overwhelmed? And people talk about flattening the curve so it gets less overwhelmed and slowing down the contagion. But a lot of what they're talking about doesn't slow it down enough to make that much of a difference. So this is in the Hammer and the Dance article. There's a graph. I'll go find it. I'll give this link. This is my favorite article about the coronavirus. So if we do nothing, a lot of people die. You can change all kinds of stuff, but it's still bad. Okay, so this this red line down here at the bottom is ICU beds. And as you can see, the number of ICU beds is low compared to the graph up here. Like, the graph is way taller than this line right at the bottom. I don't talk about my personal life. I'm not stir crazy. I stay home a lot anyways. I work from home. I spend a lot of time on philosophy. I'm a big fan of the internet. Okay, so here's these various different scenarios where they're flattening the curve. And then here's the red line for ICU beds down at the bottom. So none of them are even close. They're too tall, that much too tall. That much. It's like way too much. That is eyeballing it, that's like 10 times the number of ICU beds. So like for every ICU bed with a person in it, there's like 10 people not getting an ICU bed. And that's the most aggressive line, and these other ones are worse, 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 worse. So that's the main thing I wanted to show. A lot of the flattening the curve strategies, they don't flatten it nearly enough. Like making it flatter, but not even close to flat enough, isn't going to work very well. However, if we actually all lock down, we can flatten the curve way, 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 way more. We can cut the rate of transmission so that it's not an exponential pandemic. If we're aggressive enough with reducing contact between people so the disease spreads less, we can get it to the point where an infected person, on average, infects less than one other person. And if we do that, the hospital system doesn't get overwhelmed. And it looks like it's possible to do that while having a lot of people still go to work and people go to the grocery store and delivery people do their jobs and, essential stuff, but that's about it. No more like recreational contact between people. It looks like that would be enough to prevent the hospital system from being overwhelmed. So that's what we need to do. We need to do it for like a month, maybe 2 months. And in the meantime, while we're doing that, we need to get a lot better at testing for the disease so we can figure out where it is, how much of it's there, what communities are in danger, etc. And start doing contact tracing and figuring out who has it and who doesn't. Then once we have more information, when we're not fighting blind, then we can relax the quarantines. And in most areas, we can start having safer areas where we have lighter rules. And then we just have to not let it get out of control and keep it monitored and keep it under control until we get a cure or a vaccine or some sort of medicine. But we do not need to overwhelm the hospital system, and we do not need to let everyone get it. Those are terrible ideas, and they're not necessary. I don't know a lot about mask details. I think pretty much any mask will block a decent amount of particles. So they're pretty much worth wearing, even if you don't have the best type. I don't really know about bandanas in particular, but if you don't have something better, I think it's good to use. I know you can make your own masks out of things like pillowcases or t-shirts or towels. And those things have a pretty decent effectiveness. These things aren't perfect, they just reduce your risk. Reducing your risk by like 3/4 when you go to the grocery store is pretty good. It reminds me, people say that like t-shirts don't protect against the sun. Like if you wear a white cotton t-shirt in the sun, it's like you still need sunscreen because the t-shirt doesn't do anything. But that's not true at all. The t-shirt has an SPF of like 2, I think, something like that. But what that means is it blocks like half the sun. How does this show work? SPF. Sun. Okay, yeah, so it's a multiple. So an SPF of 2 means it takes you twice as long to burn. So it's blocking half the sun. An SPF of 4 means it's blocking 3/4. So even really low numbers are decent protection. It's very similar to the mask. Like, the masks aren't going to be perfect at all, but they're going to block a decent percentage. Also, the virus is apparently dose dependent, meaning the more virus you get when you get infected, the worse it is. If you get infected with just like a tiny bit of the virus, you're more likely to have a mild case than if you get infected with like a boatload of the virus all at once. If the virus gets off to a slower start, your immune system can handle it better. Which, by the way, what that means is if we were actually planning to have everyone get infected, if we just gave up on fighting it, I'm pretty sure we would want to have people go around, like doctors, and infect everyone with tiny doses. Because if you get a tiny dose from a doctor, you're more likely to have a mild case than if you just get it God knows where. I think that would actually be a good idea if people just gave up and they wanted to do like the herd immunity strategy like the UK was saying, which I think is a terrible idea. But if we were doing it, because it's dose dependent, I think giving people small doses on purpose would actually make some sense. It's similar to what they used to do with smallpox. So what I've read is smallpox used to kill 30% of people who got it. So like really fucking bad. And so I believe in China, they would take the scabs from people who had smallpox and grind them up. And then it turned out that was like a mild smallpox or like a weaker version of smallpox. So it was like half dead. Then they'd infect people with that, and they'd only have like a 2 or 3% chance of dying instead of 30%. So it's like a really dangerous bad vaccine because it still kills 2 or 3% of people, but compared to 30% death rate from smallpox, people actually chose that. So giving someone just a tiny bit of coronavirus would be kind of like that, where you're giving them a version they have a better chance of fighting off than if they just get it normally. It's like a really primitive version of a vaccine. Alright, the math's pretty annoying. I'm gonna take it off. Alright, so other stuff about coronavirus. I read a textbook on viruses and a bunch of academic articles and shit. So viruses are kind of interesting. A bacteria is like a single-celled organism. It has a cell wall, like an outside, kind of like a skin. and it has stuff inside it, and it can move, and it can reproduce. What it does is it sort of like duplicates itself and splits off into two. And they're a bit complicated. Viruses are a lot simpler. They have a lot less stuff in them. They're less than a cell. They're a lot smaller. And they're not alive in a lot of normal senses. So they don't have locomotion. They don't have respiration. They're not taking in nutrients, and they're not creating and using energy. And they're not manufacturing proteins. They're not replicating themselves. They just sit there kind of like an inanimate object. However, when a virus bumps into a cell that it can infect, it is designed just right to break into the cell, and then it gets its RNA or DNA. But the coronavirus is an RNA virus. So it breaks into a cell and it releases its RNA into the cell, and then the RNA gets into the cell's manufacturing facilities and essentially hacks them and tells them what to manufacture, and then they just manufacture virus parts. And then it makes a bunch of new viruses. So they can't reproduce themselves. They can only reproduce in a parasitic way where they're hijacking a cell. But they can't do their own reproduction. They're not really alive by themselves. In terms of size, a lot of human blood cells, or just cells in general, are in the vicinity of 10 microns. That means if you put 100 of them in a row, it is a millimeter long. So if you made a cube out of 100 of them along all sides, you'd have a 100 by 100 by 100 cube of human cells of fairly typical size. It would be approximately a 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter cube. And that would be visible. That would not be microscopic. A millimeter, you have around 25 of them in an inch. Wait, yeah, 25 in an inch. A lot of rulers have them. They are 1/10 of a centimeter. That gives you an idea of the scale of the body. It's microscopic, but it's not microscopic by a huge amount. So people are able to see cells, and bacteria are only a little bit smaller than our typical cells, I think. So people could see cells and bacteria with regular microscopes that just gave them a magnification, like a 10x magnification or a 100x magnification. Like if you had a 100x magnifier, you would definitely be able to see them. I'm not sure exactly how much you need. However, people couldn't see viruses like that. The coronavirus is more like 0.1 microns, so approximately 100 times smaller than a red blood cell. Which is why they can fit around 100,000 to 1,000,000 viruses in a cell. When they take over a cell, they'll produce, that's the ballpark, is 100,000 to 1,000,000 new viruses from one cell. The virus we could not see with a regular microscope. We had to invent the electron microscopes, which I don't really know much about how they work, but that's how we're able to see viruses. I'm not sure what you're referring to about Bastiat, but as far as Riesman goes, I believe that he knows very little about the coronavirus. I don't think he's researched it all that much. I don't think he's very familiar with pandemics. I've seen the same thing in a lot of other people like Ann Coulter and David Horowitz. They tweet in kind of a business as usual way and they don't know much about it. David Deutsch also clearly knows very little about it. And some of his tweets were really bad. Some of the things they're saying, like what George Reisman says, are things that I could imagine myself saying if they're sort of like on my side politically. I can kind of imagine myself saying that kind of thing if one, I didn't know anything about coronavirus, and two, I somehow didn't realize that I didn't know anything about it or that I should know something about it or whatever. Because like before I looked into it, I did not say much at all. I have not noticed any economist who knows about coronavirus as well. I mean, do you have a specific question? Because I know both econ and coronavirus decently well now. Wait, it matched and then it stopped matching? Okay, this is the one I was looking for in particular. Wait, David doesn't even know this? Yes, they can test the virus in asymptomatic people. Yeah, he just doesn't know much about it. The R0 is 2 or 3. It could be 3. Two's a low estimate. But yeah, very roughly 2. Anyways, so he's okay with the herd immunity strategy where we just intentionally overwhelm our hospital system and get huge numbers of people killed, which is sort of just giving up. Even though if we just stopped giving it to each other, we could cut the spread down while we still only have a few percent of our population infected instead of 70%. But what stood out to me more was this right here. So this is regarding herd immunity. And he says, if they're mistaken, they will soon find out, and there would still be time to institute draconian distancing and for that to work. So he's saying we can try the herd immunity thing, and if it's not working, we'll know pretty quickly, and then we can switch, and we can do the hammer plan, basically. Or the 18 months lockdown plan. I don't know what he has in mind. But I don't understand how herd immunity, one, how do you find out it's not working quickly? And then two, how do you reverse it? Wait, this is not the right tweet. This is, well, it is the issue, but there was one where he said something about reversibility. Or maybe he didn't use that word and I just remember it. No, he definitely, I recall him saying something about it being, their policy being particularly reversible. Anyway, this tweet makes no sense because, yeah, just how the hell do you know that it's not working? And the later you do distancing, the more people are infected. Like, If you have 3% of your population infected, and then you screw around for a couple weeks, and then you have 20% infected, then a lot more people get infected before you do distancing, and that means a lot more people get hurt and die. Like, you can't distancing, it's not like you just do it later and it's just as good as doing it now. The more people who get infected first, the worse. Anyone saying don't impact the economy, just keep going on like normal, is just not taking seriously that we cannot keep on like normal. It will do devastating damage. They don't. I think they just don't understand how devastating the damage would be. Like, if you look at Italy, do they think Italy should have just said, "Oh yeah, the bodies are piling up, but let's keep infecting people and make the body piles 10 times higher and just keep the economy going, and everyone just keep going to work and just pretend it's not killing us." Like, that's completely unrealistic. It makes no sense. Where do you get advanced search? No. Can you not do it? Yes. I'm looking for it on my second monitor. If anyone has any clue how his tweets make sense, though, like, let me know. Like, this one in particular just seemed egregiously bad to me. I can't see any way that it's reasonable at all. Maybe this is all he said, and the thing I was remembering was just my reading of what this means. Not sure. Anyways, this is horrible. I don't get it. There's already maybe like 30,000 Americans who are going to die that it's already too late to save. And that's going up a lot every day. The UK is also, a lot of people are already going to die relative to their population. It's going up every day. You can't just wait and distance later and say, well, it worked. We avoided a total catastrophe. Everything's fine. Like, the earlier you do it, every day matters and saves a lot of people. So viruses are on the nanoscale. They're way too small to see. They're not even close to what we could see. Unlike bacteria, which are like a bit too small to see, viruses are like another level of small. They're up against a thing that's like really invisible. Um, and they may be able to last on surfaces for over 17 days. People have been spreading that fake news about how fast the virus dies, based on misreading the science. But a new article Justin posted today was they found the virus was still there after 17 days in some of the cruise ship cabins, or had just been sitting there for 17 days, and that's without like a refrigerator or a freezer or something. That's just at like room temperature. So we can't see it, and it can be on surfaces. It can get all over the place, and we don't know. So it's bad for people's intuitions. You can't fight it with intuition very well. You have to do conceptual thinking about what actually makes sense and what would work. People are bad at being careful about this kind of thing. You can see it when dealing with food contamination. People cross-contaminate stuff in kitchens all the time. Even people with like training who it's their job, who work in like a restaurant or coffee shop or something. They make tons of small errors because they can't see the danger. Like, if they were dealing with black paint instead of bacteria, um, they do a much, much better job of avoiding cross-contamination and stuff. But because they can't see it, they screw up a lot and they don't realize it. Because people just aren't that good at being like really careful and picky and pedantic. It's being able to deal with an invisible threat by just getting every detail right is kind of similar to being able to have a philosophy conversation where you can have detailed arguments and actually get things right and make sense. And so most people just can't do that very well. It's a little similar to how they can't be programmers either. They like make syntax errors and just can't deal with all the details, aren't willing to be patient and figure it out step by step, and don't know how. Other things about the virus. The US is doing a bad job. We're doing some sort of 15-day slow down the virus plan where we just don't do very much. Like, we do enough to annoy people, but we don't do enough to stop the virus. Those kinds of plans are really bad. And we do not have good communication about what the threat is. We have mixed messages from government. We have mixed messages from experts. We have mixed messages from the media. We do not have consistent messaging that tells people how important this is, that this is not fake news, that this is not fear-mongering and hype, that this time they're not crying wolf. There's a lot of distrust of the media because they lie so much. A lot of the public just won't listen, even when it's true. And then there's a lot of people in the media who say the virus isn't that big a deal. Like, I saw some Dr. Drew clips where he was just totally downplaying it. So there's a lot of distrust of the authorities, the government, the media, the experts. And like global warming experts, like so many of them are just dishonest, incompetent liars, etc., etc. So it fuels this distrust, which then spills over to things like people who distrust evolution or people who distrust vaccines and people who do not understand pandemics and don't want to listen to people they don't trust. When the trust is so broken and you're getting mixed messages, it's not like there's a unified front from everyone on TV. There's totally people on both sides, like, who understand it and who are just saying ridiculous, false things. So a lot of people are confused. They don't realize it's a big deal. There's also some malicious people, like you see videos of some people who are just out and uh, being kind of hostile and aggressive with the cops. But most people are not malicious, they're just stupid and confused and they want to have fun on spring break or whatever. There's a video where some guy's like, we've been planning this forever, like 2 months. Like, they're really young and they don't have a sense of perspective and they can't tell the difference between like this time the adults are all freaking out and like other times the adults are all freaking out. And all the other times pretty much not that much happened. So yeah, when you cry wolf a lot, then people don't listen when the wolf comes. And this virus is the wolf. It's a real danger. What? I thought I just opened the website and then somehow it didn't open. Anyway, so I put up this intro post on my Subscribestar and I also put it on Discord in this new introduction rules channel. So it tells people the basics of the FI community. There are 3 forums. There is the Curie.us website, there's the FI email group, and there's the Discord. And then the newsletter is good because I send out links to stuff that I post in different places. Because I have like a podcast, I have a YouTube, I have an ebooks page, I have multiple websites where I post articles. So, the people who care a lot can follow all of those. But if you're not following all of those, then the newsletter, you'll get every major thing. And if you go to elliotttemple.com, it's the best place to find materials like articles and stuff because it links to all my different websites. And it has a newsletter sign up at the bottom. So I put this stuff up. I'm trying to improve things a bit. Help people find things and understand what this community is. I think some people just like don't pay attention to the new comments and they miss out a lot. Like the forums have better discussion than Discord. That they're more serious, they have more good info on average. But some people seem to be like Discord only. And I think that gives them a little bit of a skewed sense of like what happens because the Discord is not generally being used for the most like try hard writing. It's like for more casual stuff in general. So like some people might not realize there's the more serious stuff too. Anyway, so I also set up these subscription tiers. So I'm going to try to get more people to subscribe and support FI. That would be helpful. So I set up reward tiers. So whatever tier you do, you get all the previous rewards. It's cumulative. Oh, I see. These are the 3 that I wrote, and these are the 3 that Subscribestar wrote. Anyway, there's 2 basic purposes to subscribing. One is you got reward tiers. You got the perks. And 2 is you help me out. You support me. Because I do a lot of free content, including all of my coronavirus content is going to be free. No plan to charge for any of that. So it's a way of supporting and paying for the stuff I put out for free for the public, as well as a way to get some rewards. So I'm going to be using this more. I'm going to be streaming more for the next month. I'm not going to be going outside, and I think I'm going to be streaming regularly. I'm going to try streaming writing sessions more, and I'm going to see how that goes. Because writing's my top priority. But I think I'll just stream writing for like a month and give people a good view of what that looks like. The 2 topics I want to write about the most are 1, connections between Eli Goldratt material and FI material, and 2, stuff about how to learn and make progress, because most people are just kind of stuck and don't learn much. And so I've been working on how to help them and guide them. I have a lot of material related to these things written, and I've been writing like more and more versions to try to explore it better and figure more things out. Then try to get it to the point where it actually gets people unstuck, which is hard. But I've made progress on the problem, so that's pretty good. I'm trying to be more careful about talking to people, and I'm not responding to some things that I would have responded to in the past. And one of the things I want to do with people is get them to focus more and try to have a more organized discussion about one thing over time instead of a bunch of discussions that don't really get very far and then they change the topic, or they leave and then they come back in a few days and just bring up a new topic. And I think that's one of the ways people get stuck long term, is they're constantly changing topics. They never go deep on anything. And you gotta focus on something, and like what happens is they run into problems and they just don't do problem solving very much. They're not very good at it and they kind of give up and then they move on to something else. And then when they hit a problem that's hard, they give up and they go on to something else. And they just repeat that pattern. And you have to learn to face down and beat some problems that you initially find hard. You have to find a problem hard and then figure out how to beat it anyways. That's a necessary skill to get anywhere. And switching topics to avoid hard problems doesn't help you learn that. Like, you can switch topics a couple times. You can be like, well, this one was really hard, I'm going to try something easier. Or this is not something I want to spend a huge amount of time on. Like, I wasn't expecting to run into a problem here. I'm not that interested, I'm going to switch topics. Like, it's okay to do it a few times. But if you're just constantly doing it as a pattern, that's really bad. Oh yeah, so let's go through these. What is the role of government in situations like we now have with COVID-19 and why? The role is to protect people. Oh, I'm in this window. I'm in a private browsing window, so I wasn't logged in. I'll go fix it. Alright, there we go. Wait, do I have a non-private? Oh yeah. There's this one and there's this one. I just didn't read this because I was worrying about coronavirus and stuff. So it's a little over a week old now. It's way too long also, now that I'm looking at it. I was trying to get the discussion to be like shorter. Wait, he wrote all this and he actually ignored most of what I said, I'm pretty sure. Like, I wrote this to him and he just ignores me and... No, this is not it at all. Oh wait, assuming one is true? I'll try to show the error of 2? Okay. They're saying there's a self-contained error in 2. Wait. Wait, what is 2? Alright, that's enough of that. He's just bringing up a million things at once, and it's too hard to get to the bottom of any of the issues. He won't focus. And he won't go step by step in small steps. He ran through like a dozen steps at once in that post. Like if I was gonna reply to the first part I disagreed with, I would just be very near the beginning. Now, this is something Justin said he did not want to focus on and discuss seriously. So I was just gonna skim it. I want to see how long this is.
China reports a 21 million
23 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna put in headphones. Alright, I will refresh the page. My internet?
China reports a 21 million drop in mobile users for the past 3 months, with CCP virus
Okay, slow it down a bit.
Casualties be one of the causes, an expert explains. As virus cases continue increasing around the world, China has been reporting 0 new local cases, but local residents tell us otherwise. Senate Democrats block a virus relief bill for the second day in a row. They say it fails to do enough for families, but Republicans criticize them for delaying funding for workers and small businesses. Over 1.5 billion people globally told to stay home to avoid virus spread. This after the UK was the latest to join lockdown. And in the US, federal agencies to build 4 emergency hospitals in New York this week. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm your host, Tiffany Meyer. For the past 4 days, Wuhan has reported 0 new confirmed cases of the CCP virus. But one resident in Wuhan told us in 2 communities in his residential area there were confirmed cases, but no one is allowed to report them. The person added anyone who tries to report it has to bear the responsibility, so people stay quiet. He believes the only way to change the status quo is when the communist regime collapses, because he said the Chinese people are now so brainwashed that it goes beyond the imagination of people outside. In recent days, some residential blocks in Wuhan canceled the lockdown, and then they were put on lockdown again. In some residential blocks, announcements were posted about confirmed cases there and reminded residents to be careful. So what's the reason behind this? Our source told us Wuhan authorities said all state-owned enterprises can only resume work after 14 consecutive days of 0 cases. People are complying so that work can resume, regardless of what the actual situation is. In China, blood tests were fast, with results available after 15 minutes and cheap, costing under 300 yuan, which is around $40. It was also proven to have a high accuracy rate, but suddenly several hospitals in Wuhan stopped doing them in recent days. A doctor in Wuhan told his friends it's no longer a medical issue, but rather a political one. Will patients who test positive again after having been released from hospital be counted as new confirmed cases? According to the vice head of CDC in Hubei province, these people will not be counted again. So that means even if people do test positive, the new cases can still remain 0. According to a March 22nd report from South China Morning Post, confidential government documents revealed over 43,000 asymptomatic patients infected with the CCP virus in China, but they were not counted in the official numbers. A professor of infectious epidemiology at Hokkaido University in Japan found in his research that about 30% of patients diagnosed with the CCP virus were asymptomatic. The World Health Organization classifies all people who test positive as confirmed cases, whether or not they show any symptoms. South Korea does the same, but on January 29th, China's National Health Commission made it clear in the classification that patients will now be divided into suspicious, confirmed, and positive cases, and patients with light or no symptoms will be reported as positive cases, but will not be included in confirmed cases. But studies in Germany, the Netherlands, Canada, and others have found these asymptomatic patients can still spread the virus, so why not count them? And it seems the Chinese Communist regime is spreading hate propaganda against Japan and the US. A photo circulating online of a banner which read, "Congratulations to the US epidemic," and wished the Japanese epidemic a smooth sailing. It was posted on a storefront in Liaoning province, which is located in northeastern China, bordering North Korea and the Yellow Sea. The banner has already been taken down, and local police say they are investigating the incident. Some people on the internet are agreeing with the banner sentiments, while others are criticizing the shop for being insensitive and promoting humanity's annihilation. China reports a 21 million drop in mobile users for the past 3 months. What does the drastic drop mean? An expert says virus deaths might have contributed to account closings. NTD's Juliet Song has the details.
China has lost over 21 million mobile users in the last 3 months. The sharp decline is unusual, as Chinese use their phones for pretty much everything.
Cell phones are an indispensable part of life. Only in extreme circumstances would people stop using their cell phones.
Chinese use phones for everything from cashless payments for just about anything to paying rent and transport. But in January and February, 3 Chinese mobile carriers saw a sharp decline in users. Users increased during the same period in 2019, 2018, and 2017.
It can be said without a doubt that the over 21 million drop in user numbers is related to the CCP virus outbreak.
Tong says virus deaths might have contributed to the count. An insider working in China's telecom industry told him that the lost users all met a specific criteria. The accounts they used required no minimum spending and had 0 spending activity for the past month. According to the insider, accounts that require no minimum spending make up about 5% of China's total mobile users. Owners of these accounts tend to be in low-income groups in China's Midwest area. Many are migrant workers and college students. China has over 280 million migrant workers and 28 million college students. Assuming that about 5% of them have such accounts and stopped using their cell phones, that's about 15 million. There's still a 6 million gap that can't be explained.
I speculate hundreds of thousands or perhaps 1 million Chinese people have died from the CCP virus. Of course, there will be no account activities after the death, which contributed to the sharp.
That is a lot more dead people than China has said. People could also be not using their phone because they're sick and they can't do anything, I guess.
The sharp drop in numbers.
Days after the data was released, China's top anti-corruption organ announced changes for the 3 major Chinese carriers. Authorities said the service options were too complex and needed to be refined, but Tong says the data reflects to a certain extent the casualties and economic impact brought by the virus. He said it's likely the Chinese authorities are using the new changes as a cover. Reporting by Juliet Song, NTD News, New York.
Debate is heating up today in the Senate. On Sunday, the chamber failed to pass an emergency aid package, one that's designed to financially help Americans during the pandemic and boost the economy.
Tensions are rising on Capitol Hill after Senate Democrats again blocked a bill aimed at addressing the virus pandemic's domestic impact.
This bill is going to help every small business in this country. It's not a bailout. It provides up to $350 billion for small businesses for the next 8 weeks to keep going.
The Monday vote ended 49-46, falling far short of the 60 it needs to pass. Likewise, the same vote failed 47-47 on Sunday. The over $1.5 trillion bill includes financial aid for regular Americans, small businesses, and critically affected industries, including airlines. Democrats say it gives too much help to corporations and too.
This economic stuff the government is doing is absolutely clueless. Like, economists do have a lot of things to complain about. Legitimately. But they ought to learn about the virus too, and that there's a real threat, and then take that into account too. Because liberalism is perfectly compatible with defending people from deadly threats. In fact, this was discussed on a FI list. Here's me answering a question about whether a liberal government can do anything.
And too little to help workers and healthcare providers.
The Senate Republican bill put corporations first.
But Republicans have chastised them for delaying much-needed aid and for including provisions they say have nothing to do with the current crisis, like funding for renewable energy and new standards for airline emissions.
Democrats won't let us fund hospitals or save small businesses unless they get the dust off the Green New Deal.
Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin offering optimism this morning, saying that a bipartisan deal was very close.
The Federal Reserve is about to go all out to keep the economy moving. It's lifting limits on the amount of money it will lend to governments and businesses at this time.
As people stay home and tax payments are deferred, businesses and governments around the country desperately need money to pay their bills. The Federal Reserve can help. It prints the US dollar, then lends it to the federal government or central banks. Usually the Fed...
Yeah, money printing is not how you fix economic problems. I'm gonna skip ahead.
limits the amount of money. Fell 0.27%. Apple
Emergency will be treated at the Javits Center hospitals when the city's hospitals are full. Cuomo said about 300
It said Apple,
patients
I'm
in the
gonna
state
go
with the
back.
most.
a third of its value since February 12th.
New York now has over 20,000 positive cases of the CCP.
Markets initially responded positively to the Fed's news, but fell from there. News that the Senate stimulus package was delayed had a negative impact. The Dow and S&P 500 fell around 3% each. The Nasdaq fell 0.27%. Apple shares lost almost 5% today. It means the tech giant is no longer a $1 trillion company. It's now lost almost a third of its value since February 12th.
New York now has over 20,000 positive cases of the CCP virus. That's more than any other state. But federal agencies will start building 4 emergency hospitals there this week. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more from the governor.
FEMA will start building 4 emergency hospitals in the Javits Convention Center this week. That would total to 1,000 more hospital beds for patients in the state, with the most confirmed cases in the country. But the governor is also asking hospitals to increase their number of beds by 50%.
All hospitals have now been ordered to increase their capacity a minimum of 50%. I've asked them to try to find a way to increase their capacity 100%, right?
Patients will be treated at the Javits Center hospitals when the city hospitals are full. Cuomo said about 320 federal staff
Yeah, ordering people to increase capacity doesn't make it actually work. What I remember reading is that hospitals can increase about 20%, and that they can't really stretch more than that very well. Which makes sense. Like, they're not super flexible things. They have a limited amount of space, they have a limited number of doctors, they have a limited amounts of supplies.
staff members will work at the center. He also said the state has enough supplies for health staff already, but is asking President Trump to order businesses to make more medical supplies that they may need in the future.
First, we're getting the existing medical staff all the equipment that they need. We have all the equipment they need. I can't promise what happens in the future if the federal government doesn't step up and actually do the production and supply.
As of Monday, Johns Hopkins University reports a total of over 20,000 positive cases of coronavirus in New York. The Army Corps will build 3 other hospitals in the state in an effort to increase its hospital capacity from 50,000 to a minimum of 75,000. Miguel Moreno, NTD News, New York.
The first of 2 U.S. military hospital ships were dispatched on Monday to boost hospital bed capacity as the number of U.S. coronavirus cases swells.
The Pentagon said the U.S. naval ship Mercy departed its base from San Diego with nearly 900 staff on board to take on non-coronavirus patients and allow local personnel to manage those on shore with the virus. Mercy is headed to Los Angeles. It has 1,000 beds on board. California Governor Gavin Newsom wrote to President Trump requesting that the Mercy dock in Los Angeles until September. The ship was thought to be headed to Seattle, where the outbreak is more severe, but plans changed course after it started to look like California would need it more. Mercy's main function is supporting the U.S. military abroad, but it can also be used for disaster relief and humanitarian operations. President Trump said on Sunday, hospital ship USNS Comfort would go to New York City.
New Jersey set up its second drive-through coronavirus testing site in Monmouth County today. Commuters waited in their cars in long lines. The state hopes to take pressure off the first testing site, which reached capacity on Saturday, 35 minutes after opening in Bergen County. Authorities closed it 3 hours later. New Jersey planned a third testing site in Camden County, but is still waiting on equipment. Camden County authorities say the huge demand for testing kits is holding up the site. The CCP virus can cause severe breathing difficulties. That means ventilators are critical but scarce. America's top automakers are now joining the manufacturing effort.
Ventilators are in short supply around the world. To meet the demand, U.S. automakers like Ford, GM, and Tesla are now working to start manufacturing them.
What we're seeing on a purely voluntary basis, based on the leadership of this administration, we're seeing the greatest mobilization of the industrial base since World War II.
GM announced on Friday they are now working with Seattle-based ventilator company Vintech to make more.
Over the weekend, a lot of work was done to identify what parts are needed, where the shortages are. And we know that GM has reached out to its entire supply base to try to identify those critical parts.
With the product, CEO said the company can usually produce 150 per month, but by working with GM, that number could reach 1 to 2,000 per month. And Trump is in metal. Ford and Tesla both said they would also start working on making ventilators to help during this pandemic. Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Pharmacists, techs, store managers, and employees all have to go into work. The company announced it will give $500 bonuses to its employees who have to be there during the coronavirus pandemic. CVS CEO Larry Merlo said in a statement, the move is a way for the company to help the employees have peace of mind in uncertain times. Also, the company is hiring 50,000 more people. They're looking to fill full-time, part-time, and temporary positions. Washington, D.C.'s mayor is using the National Guard to keep people away from the city's cherry blossoms. The beloved cherry trees are in bloom in the nation's capital. Most years, it's a time for festivities and gatherings, but this year, it's a problem. Officials are urging people to stay away, but it's been hard to convince people to miss the chance to see the beloved blooms. Police are closing roads and restricting pedestrian access. Now the National Guard is getting involved to enforce social distancing. Iran has refused medical assistance from the U.S. to help fight the CCP virus. Instead, the Iranian regime wants
God, all those people in the video footage there were just socializing and being close to each other and spreading the virus.
the U.S. to lift sanctions, but Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the sanctions do not target imports on food, medicine, or medical equipment.
Iran, the Middle Eastern country hit hardest by the CCP virus, refusing to accept medical assistance from the U.S. The Iranian regime mimicking a Chinese conspiracy theory about the source of the CCP virus, saying U.S. medicine is a way to spread the virus more. Instead, the Iranian regime calling for the U.S. to lift sanctions, but Secretary of State Mike Pompeo making...
Why would we even give them assistance? We shouldn't assist them until they stop threatening to kill us and stuff like that.
Making it clear the sanctions do not target imports of food, medicine, medical equipment, or other humanitarian goods. Pompeo blaming the regime for ignoring early warnings about the virus from its own health officials and denying the first death for at least 9 days. In early February, as the outbreak in Wuhan, China worsened, the Iranian regime banned flights coming from China except for Mahan Air, which the U.S. designated as a provider of support to terrorism in 2007. Pompeo saying 55 flights on Mahan Air between Tehran and China led to further infections of the Iranian people. He says at least 5 countries' first cases were directly imported from Iran, putting millions more lives at risk.
And Italy has taken new measures to stop the spread of the virus. It reported 601 deaths on Monday, bringing its total to over 6,000.
Some good news from Italy as its death rate slows for 2 days in a row. The number of new cases fell as well. But on the front line, at least 23 doctors have already died from fighting the virus. And there are fears it could get worse. Almost 5,000 healthcare workers are believed to be infected. Hospitals are strained, so are cemeteries. Normally, the structure stocks about 30 coffins, but in this period, we have reached over 100. Italy has taken additional measures to stop the spread. On Sunday, police were checking passengers' temperatures at Naples train station. This after all non-essential travel was banned on the weekend. In Sicily, grocery stores are no longer allowed to open on the weekends. That meant customers waiting outside in the rain for them to open again Monday morning.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel has tested negative in an initial test for the novel coronavirus, a spokesperson confirmed on Monday. The Olympic Committee is reconsidering postponing the Summer Games after insisting they go on as planned in Tokyo, despite the spread of the CCP virus.
The International Olympic Committee started discussions on Sunday about if the Tokyo Summer Olympics should go ahead as planned. At the emergency meeting, the organizers discussed a possible postponement of the Games because of the CCP virus. They are looking to push the start date of the Games back by a year or more, but say they won't cancel the Games.
The decision of the IOC of considering possible postponement is in line with what I just said, to hold the event in a complete form. If that becomes difficult, we will think of the athletes first and foremost. We may have no option but to consider postponing the Games.
Up to this point, the Olympic Committee and organizers in Tokyo had insisted the Games would go ahead. Athletes, countries, and sponsors all had concerns about the Olympics this year. Many refused to participate. U.S. track and swimming called for a postponement. The head of the Olympic Committee acknowledged that his earlier insistence that the Games go forward may have confused people. He says it was a rational approach, but perhaps at odds with the general public. The Olympics have never before been postponed or canceled during peacetime. The committee said that a final decision should come after 4 weeks.
And deserted streets and shuttered office buildings in the Indian capital on Monday. This as a lockdown to halt virus spread began. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is urging people to stay at home and save themselves.
The usually bustling streets of New Delhi were silent on Monday as the city was put under lockdown until March 31 in an attempt to keep citizens indoors to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. The order to shut down the capital came hours after hundreds of millions of Indians followed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's calls for people to self-isolate for a day. The city's borders with neighbouring states will be sealed and public transport will also be suspended. Indian Railways, which carries more than 25 million commuters a day, cancelled all passenger train services until the end of the month. India has registered over 340 cases of coronavirus with
This is just a video. Oh, this is from Russian news? It says this. I don't know what ruptly is. It's a division of RT. Okay, yeah, so this is Russian news, but I don't think they're faking these footage of Italian crematorium with all these coffins. Yeah, way too many coffins. Way too many coffins. The coffins didn't all fit in the place they're supposed to go because they have too many. Every coffin there has a body in it that's waiting to be cremated. Those right there are just a line of coffins on the floor. They just don't have space, and they're just putting coffins on the floor. And they can't burn the bodies fast enough, and they're just piling up. That's Italy right now. And that is why the do nothing and try to save the economy plan is stupid. It's not gonna work. The virus is too deadly to ignore. Like, there's no scenario where we just ignore it and everything's okay and a few people die and everyone else keeps working. Okay, someone linked this. I haven't read it yet. This India article. That's not. I forgot how to make Siri read stuff. Let's see, Siri. No, it's not really Siri. Dictation? Oh, not dictation, it's the other one. Yeah, this is it. It's option escape. I did command option escape. Yeah, so I just needed one less key. I was close. Oh, you guys can't hear it. Okay, so I don't know if I can fix that actually, the way I'm doing the stream. They have this list of apps. Install and okay, so if I make a new app. Oh, here we go. Text to speech, voiceover. Let's try this. Where is it? Oh, it's at the top. Okay. Now we go back here. Let me see if you guys
We
can
construct a
hear me.
predictive model for case counts in India and provide projections over a time horizon
Oh,
under
you can hear,
hypothetical
but
public
I
health interventions
can't.
of varying
Right.
intensities.
What's
We
going
provide a
on?
summary of our findings and recommendations. Interested readers may take a look at our detailed report. Direct download link. Check downloads folder.
Yeah,
We conclude
capture.
that it is
There
highly
we go.
appropriate to adopt draconian measures for the largest democracy in the world, acting early, before the growth of COVID-19 infections in India starts to accelerate. We provide an assessment of the economic, social, and healthcare implications for such interventions in India. We conclude that until we acquire biological herd immunity from COVID-19, there is need for social and economic immunity, not just coverage for testing and treatment for COVID-19 for everyone in India, but subsidies and incentives for the common public to survive the consequences of the severe interventions that are needed to stop the virus from creating a catastrophe in India.
What? Just like hitting up and down and it won't scroll. I don't know what's wrong with it. Anyway, alright.
We analyze the current data from India with standard epidemiologic tools of modeling disease transmission and estimating the theoretical number of infected at any given time, sawing it out, 2020, and compared projections for India against US and Italy. We use current daily data up to March 16th from the 2019 novel coronavirus visual dashboard operated by the Johns Hopkins University Center for Systems Science and Engineering, JHUCSSE, sawing it out. 2020. In the absence of any intervention, India can expect to see an exponential growth of COVID-19 cases within a few weeks. Figure 3. The predicted cumulative number of cases in India on March 31st is 379, on April 15th is 4,836, and on May 15th is 58,643. Our current estimates are at best underestimates for India based on early phase data, given a low frequency and scale of testing in India. The upper credible limit to these corresponding to these case count estimates are 2,507, 28,925, and approximately 915,000, respectively. The rate of growth of COVID-19 cases in India until March 19th seems to follow the pattern of US with a lag of around 13 days, just like US numbers were similar to that of Italy by 11 days in the early stages of the pandemic. A slower rate of growth is predicted in India by our model based on the current data when compared to Italy and USA, mainly due to small number of confirmed cases, likely due to low frequency of testing and the large Indian population. However, availability of testing and community transmission may lead to a spike in a single day, and that will shift the projection curve significantly, and India can definitely start looking like USA or Italy in terms of case counts.
I was looking at this earlier. I wasn't sure if it was watchable if there was a link. Yeah, how do I view or watch this? That's the part I was missing. Okay, so he's on the portal. Oh, here's a link. It's just sort of in the middle. How do you download episode? This is terrible. Okay, so it's on iTunes. I know you can get an actual download from that. Okay, so is it on YouTube? Looks like it. None of those are a week ago. None of them are the Veritas guy. So it's not up yet on YouTube, but maybe it will be soon. I don't know, I'll get it later, figure it out. I wanted to give it a try and see. I like the Veritas guy. Alright, later guys, I'm out.